Good morning, my dear students. This is a new semester. This new semester, Department of Agricultural Biology is going to offer the two courses. One of the course is the plant protection. This is a pre-credit course. In this course, the first topic is introduction to pest and integrated pest management. Before going to the topic, I would like to elaborate certain things regarding this course. This course designed to cover the 30 hours of theory and the 30 hours of practical. The 30 hours of theory we have divided into 13 subsections. According to the weightage also we have given a different hours. For example, if you are taking the paddy pest of paddy, it will be covered in 3 hours. For example, if you are taking pest of orchard crops, there are a number of orchard pests you are going to study in different orchard crops. Therefore, we have allocated 4 hours. So this after the completed study of 30 hours, you will be able to understand what are the pests, what are the different kind of pests, what are the different life stages attacking on the crop in respected pests, and how you can able to manage by using an indicated pest management tactic. So this course also going to take 30 hours of practicals and the field visits. In these practicals and field visits, you can be able to identify and look at the real pest specimens and the farmers how they are facing problems regarding these pests. Therefore, this detailed study of this course is very important for the undergraduate agriculture student. I am going to the first chapter of this topic of this course is an introduction to pest. You all know there are a number of insects. They are around the environment. The pest, what you are seeing in the environment, the insects, what you are seeing around the environment, that all are not harmful, not are causing economic damages to the crop or significant damages to the crop. When you want to consider these insects as a pest, that insects should cause at least 5% of economic return of the crop cultivation. I took the insect as an example, but if you are taking as a pest overall, this is not only the insects, but also nematodes, weeds, bacteria, or microorganisms, fungi, viruses, and vertebrates, for example, elephants and monkeys and rabbits, all any organism, if they are causing more than the 5% of the economic damage of the production, agricultural production, or the well-being of the human being, we call it as pest. Another definition is defines that any organism whose activities interfere with human health, convenience, comfort, or the profit, and causes economic damage to the crop and animal husband. We call it as pest. If you are taking pest as a broad category, so any organism or living creature that are causing, affecting the food industry, fiber industry, shelter. For example, if you are building a home, termite may be the problem. Pest of public health important. For example, mosquitoes, bedbugs. So nuisance pests. Some insects may migrate. While migrating, it creating the accidents, the road accidents. Or night times, if the road lights are blinking, the insects will attract it and cause the public nuisance. We call it as those. The pest outbreak is another term when the pest attack started and in a short period of time they are causing tremendous yield losses or damages. We call it as pest outbreak. For example, nowadays the locust. So you also can classify the pest according to the occurrence of this pest. Occurrence means whether the pest is present or not. So altogether there are 8 classifications. One is the regular pest. First one is the regular pest. Regular pest means if you are cultivating any crop, that pest will be there. It's close associated with that particular crop. We call it as a regular pest. For example, if you are taking the rice, right? Rice yellow stem borer, right? Rice yellow stem borer is a regular pest. Whenever, whatever, wherever you are cultivating, that you can expect this pest in there. For example, another example is a yellow stem borer. Sorry, brinjal shoot and fruit borer. These are known as urbanales that are causing the damages on brinjal. Because it's a major pest of brinjal. Whenever, wherever you are cultivating brinjal, you can expect it. That's what we call as a regular pest. Another pest we call as an occasional pest. These pests infrequently can attack the crops. Therefore, there is no close association with that cost. If you are taking the rice caseworm, you cannot expect everywhere rice cultivation the pest will attack or not. If you are taking the mango stem borer, Bacterosaura homoculata, is from rice caseworm, Insula terpendalis. So if you are cultivating mango, definitely you should not expect the mango stem borer attack. Sometimes it will attack, sometimes it will not attack. This means there is no close association. This is called irregular, occasional pest. Third one is a seasonal pest. Seasonal pest, it means after the onset of season, the onset of monsoonal rain, you can expect some certain lepidopteran, especially red hairy caterpillar. The groundnut cultivation, this is a very big problem in southern India and some part of the northern India, especially Bihar. And even in the Mullaitivu district, also a few years back, we identified this red hairy caterpillar in groundnut cultivation. Immediately started the first set of rainfall in the monsoon. The next week, you can expect this caterpillar. And another one is the mango hoppers. It's the mango hoppers, the mango flowering time or germinating time. You can expect so many pest incidents. Mango hoppers attack if the dew present or if your mango tree is a dense branched. If you're going under the mango trees, you can find sounds for jumping of hoppers. The honeydews, mango leaves become a blackish because of the scooty mold due to this hopper excretions, honeydew excretions. This pest we call it as the seasonal pest. Persistent pest means if you are cultivating a certain crops throughout the year, throughout the year you can expect this pest. For example, is a chili thrips, Sclerothrips dorsalis. Chili thrips, whenever you are cultivating these chili plants, you can expect the thrips attack. And guava mealybug, when you are cultivating guava, this is not much problem here. In southern India, it is a very big problem. Big acreage of orchards, guava orchards, will be attacked by these mealybugs. Continuously, if you are cultivating, but not too much loss, but continuously this pest will be there and damage. So this is called persistent pest. Sporadic pest means this pest occurs in few localities. For example, if you are taking Sri Lanka, coconut slug caterpillar. You cannot expect the coconut slug caterpillar attack all over the Sri Lanka. Maybe it can be in the coconut belt, Puttalam, Negombo, Chiloe. Or sometimes you can expect only Chiloe, not other areas. Sometimes you can expect on Gambaha, not other areas. That's what we call as sporadic pest. Another one is a rice earhead bugs. This is a coconut slug caterpillar, rice earhead bug. If you are cultivating paddy, you cannot expect paddy cultivation earhead bug attack in Jaffna. Sometimes you can expect in Anuradhapura. Sometimes you will not expect in Anuradhapura. Sometimes you can expect in Mullaitivu, vertical. That is what we call it as these are the sporadic pests. Pest epidemic means sudden outbreak. Pest outbreak. Pest epidemic means sudden outbreak of a pest in short period of time, causing tremendous losses. One such example now is the current recent pest epidemic of locust, desert locust. The German and Kenya and Iran, the Mediterranean countries, and Indo-Pakistan border, especially Rajasthan, Punjab states of India and Pakistan, severely affected by these desert locusts because it's not damaging, but certain environmental factors favorable for this pest is multiply in billions and come and whatever the vegetation is there in particular area, will finish and move to other area. It's called pest epidemic. Endemic pest means so certain part of the country only it will be attacked, not the other area. For example, if you are taking brown plant hopper, you can cultivate paddy all over the Sri Lanka, but you can expect brown plant hopper attack only in some district. For example, nowadays it's very big problem in Ambar. Maybe due to the congenial condition present in Ambar area, and the cultivars selected by the farmers for the cultivation. These are the boosting of endemic pests. The potential pest means normally this pest will not cause much impact. It's not called as a minor pest. If you are regularly monitoring and taking some management aspect, this will be under control. But if some mismanagement happened or we are not monitoring properly, this will become a noxious one and causing very big problem. The armyworms, commonly we call it as an armyworm. Armyworm will be there here and there as a polyphagous one. So normally we are not much considering, but if you are not considering, but it will become as a emerge as a nowadays the problem of full armyworm corn. Right? It's called as a potential pest. Allowed to establish, if you are allowing establish, then serious. So you can also classify the pest according to the economic damage caused by the pest. Major pest and minor pest. If the economic damage is beyond the 10%, over the 10%, then we call it as a major pest. If they are causing up to 5 to 10% only, then we call it as a minor pest. Below 5% is tolerable, negligible, so we need not to take any management aspect. But the problem of the farmers, if they are identifying one or two pests also, they are taking measures, applying insects. That is the mismanagement, right? How does an insect become a pest? For example, if you're taking an insect, any organism may be the pest, but if you're taking an insect, how do an insect become a pest? First condition is in favorable weather condition. You all know any organism to breed and multiplication, they need proper environment. That's what in environmental biology you have studied about the ecosystem. It's an interaction of biotic and abiotic factors. The favorable weather condition is suitable for breeding, for laying of population and mating and laying of eggs, multiplication of an organism tremendously and quickly. Then this will become a serious pest. It's favorable weather condition. Now the locust in Mediterranean areas, unexpected heavy rains created the greening of deserts. Greening of deserts induced the over multiplication of locusts. Now locust migration is here and there and devastating crops. Favorable weather condition. The favorable weather condition is not suitable. So high temperature, sometimes the eggs will be died, then their population are under control. Second one is an intensive cultivation of monoculture. Right? Intensive cultivation and monoculture. Intensive cultivation is earlier, our system was not under agricultural system. It was under forest ecosystem. So when the human population were under hunter-gatherer period, so they were moving here and there, and whatever the foods are there available in the forest, they collected the net. when they stopped moving and started to colonization, whatever the seeds they collected when they were in the Gandakata period, they started to cultivate that one and domesticated that one, and also they want more food due to the multiplication of the human being. They started to abolish the deforestation, clearing of the land, forest lands, and started to cultivate that one, domesticated crops, and continuously they started to cultivate as a monoculture. So it is a monoculture, no diversified environment means rich source of food for the pest insect. Then insect will multiply and it will become a pest, right? And also while you are clearing of this land, destruction of natural capital is the third one. While you are converting forest land into the agricultural land, so severely you are removing the flowering plants and herbs that are source for the breeding sites for the natural biological control agent, parasitoids and predators. Predators will be hide over there and it can trap, can catch the insect for the food, for the multiplication, parasitization. Yes. If you are destruction of these natural habitats, then biotic communities, mean biological control agent population will be declined. Then there is no natural control factors for a particular insect. That rate will become low. Then that insect population will be high. It will become a pest. The fourth case is the accidental introduction of the pest. So we are importing some planting material for the food, animal or the human food. Then certain insect or the weed seeds can come into the country accidentally. This condition of Sri Lanka is more suitable for that accidentally introduced organism, then that the organism will multiply and pose constant threat to become a pest. That's how the elephant grass spreading all over the icon, and also some insect pests, for example, coconut leaf mine, papaya mealybug introduced from Sri Lanka, that is from India to Sri Lanka. Originally, papaya mealybug from Java. Why? Because these insects introduced into the country, there will not be a natural control factor, because natural control factor will be there in where it's originated. That's how for the coconut leaf miner, Dimokia javanica control, so Primicotica community control, they introduced Dimokia javanica from Java Island. And also for the papaya mealybug, they introduced Aeschylosaurus papaya from Java Island. Even though this Dimokia javanica worked well and controlled coconut leaf miner, but this Aeschylosaurus papaya is not able to adapt to control the Paracoccus maniatus, papaya mealybug. So if the parasitoid is not adapting because of high temperature, that's the problem. So there is no natural control factor. The accidentally introduced one will boost its population and may constantly threatening the biodiversity or biotic community of Sri Lanka. Next, last one is the use of insecticide, broad spectrum insecticides. In the 19th century, 18th century and 19th century, after the invention of these pesticides, active ingredients, so from accidental in the green revolution, they have introduced so many high yielding varieties. They are very susceptible to the pests. So their pest population was increased. So what they have done is they introduced sprayed broad spectrum insecticides. This broad spectrum insecticides killed many pests. Escaped one developed resistance to the insecticide. Then its population will increase because your pesticide will not work. And also the broad spectrum insecticides have killed out the biological control agents for that particular insect. Therefore, this the absence of natural control factor and the pest resurgence and the resistance, development of the resistant to pesticide, those insects, one such example is nowadays mealybug, because natural control factors we have killed and we have wiped out all the biological control agents for the papaya mealybug. So earlier papaya mealybug we were not considering as a megapest. Now it is a mealybug. So these are the factors. There are 5 factors to induce the insect to become a pest. Boost. So therefore, what they have done is they stopped using that insecticides and broad spectrum chemical after the publication of the Silent Spring by the Richard Hassman in 18th century. He released a book, Impact of Pesticides on Biodiversity, called Silent Spring title. He showed that how the broad spectrum chemicals caused damages to the unwanted organisms in biodiversity, especially birds and fishes. So thereafter, the UN General Assembly they decided that so we have to stop the judicious usage of these pesticides and we have to find out all the available management options to integrate it whenever needed. Only you have to use the chemical. That's why they introduced a term we call it as an integrated pest management. Integrated pest management is an integration of the system. Integration of all the tactics, cultural, biological, physical, prevention, exclusion method, quarantine, everything you have to, including chemical, but in minimum. While considering the environment, you have to consider the environment. Integrated pest management is mainly considering the environment. But chemical, you are not considering the environment and other environmental factors. You are applying just whenever you need to apply, you apply. But integration is you have to integrate all the possible techniques and suitable methods, compatible methods. You see, compatible way. You have to find it is a compatible way, a compatible manner as possible to maintain the population to those causing economically unacceptable damage. So your task is to reduce the pest population, not to kill all, below causing economic injury level, economic threshold. If we are minimizing the pest population towards economic threshold level, you will study in the next couple of slides. Economic threshold level, what's the difference between economic threshold level and economic injury level? So the main target is selection, integration, implementation of pest control based on a predicted economical, ecological, and sociological consequences. Because you are implementing the integrated pest management, you have to think about economic, farm profitability, and ecological factor, and social acceptance. Should be acceptable by the, if you are applying chemical, nowadays public are not accepting, no? Therefore, you have to consider and integrate all. It's called decision making process, right? Decision making process and how you are going to implement. I will study. So before that, you have to know that how these insects are causing damage because it's a decision making process now integrated pest management. So therefore, you have to know how these insects are causing the damage. They are causing damages, economic damages in 4 ways. The first one is an indirect damage. Then indirect damages means they will not attack on the economically important. For example, if you are taking potato, if the pest is attacking potato leaves, and there is no any direct impact because our need for our purpose, we need potato tubers, not the leaves of potato, right? Indirect damages. Indirect damages also causing yield losses. For example, if in the young seedling stages, if they are eating too much of leaves, then photosynthetic activity will be less. Then your tuber size will be less. It's called indirect damages. Next one is a direct damage. Directly, they are attacking economically important parts. For example, corn. Right? The corn earworms, their target is to eat the hops, cabbage head borers. Their target is the cabbage head. So our economically important part is a cabbage head and hops, no? So if they are Directly damaging means so severe yield losses we can expect. Third, vector diseases. Some insects directly or indirectly will not cause harm, but indirectly what they are doing is they are transmitting viruses. The viruses are causing so much of damage. Therefore, you can expect quality losses, yield loss. And fourth one is a contamination. For example, some insects, they are eating, while eating, they are using so much of process and excreta. For example, if you are going there in the market, you can find some brinjal fruits. You can find some holes, boreholes. Food and food borer is eating, and excreta will be there, damage to us, right? So they are for the quality losses for stored products. If you are storing some rava, semolina, right? If you are storing some wheat flours, while you are storing, you can expect so much of beetles. No? If they are beetle attacks, quality losses. Therefore, the fourth way is they are causing the economic damages. So, in which way they are causing economic damage, you should understand why to take the decision of in which tactics will be more suitable with the need management or not. So therefore, you have to justify the IPM. So IPM we have to justify because pesticides have the limitations. So due to the pesticide limitation, in which way they are pesticides are limitation, creating the limitation. So because you have to identify an active ingredient. For example, if you are on pesticide research, if you want to identify a pesticide active ingredient, it will take 5 years to maybe 25 years. So much of cost, time, effort, right? So much of time and effort in after the marketing of this active ingredient. If the pest is resurgent, okay, develop resistance in 1 year after the introduction of this chemical, your time and effort lost. The pesticides also kill the biological control agents too. And also secondary pest out there. Therefore, the secondary pest means earlier we considered that one as a minor pest. Nowadays it's becoming a major pest because of natural control factors. It's there, not there. One such example I already explained, that mealybugs. Earlier we considered as these are minor pests. Nowadays it's becoming major pest because of so much of resistance and no biological natural control factor. Also, other than that, the human health hazards nowadays. So CKD, you all know about the chronic diseases because of these pesticides. Therefore, you should, and environmental pollution also. Too much of pollution, drift pollution, noise pollution, air pollution. So, whatever, especially pesticides through the contamination with natural water sources, soil contamination, and drift directly impact on the human being and another animal. So, if that these are the limitations, is justifying that IPM is important for the pest management. You should understand first that why we are going for an integrated pest management because of these limitations available. If you are considering the chemical only, then we are going for an IPM. The goal of our IPM is to increase the farm profitability. So our aim is to our farm should get maximum profit. The environment should be in quality because if you are applying chemicals, quality environmental process, and if you are applying pesticide, the cost is high. Initial cost will be high. If the resistance developed pesticide is not working, cost will be high. And public image. Nowadays, people are not buying the pesticide applied food, vegetables, foods. We are going towards organic agriculture, organic products. Therefore, our goal of the IPM is to satisfy these three. Increase the farm profitability, improve the environmental quality, improve the public image. So these are the key components or steps in implementation of IPM. For example, first, if you all know about IPM. So what is the aim of the IPM? Goal of the IPM? Why we want to go for justification? You know? Then you have to implement the IPM program. Or you want to implement the IPM program. These are the steps involved. First, correct identification of Because if we are potato cultivator, right? If you are cultivating the potatoes, right? Potato is nearly harvesting stage. If you are identifying the pests or beetles attacking the potato leaves, do you need to take control measures? Because next week you are going to harvest. And also these beetles are eating leaves, not the tubers. Therefore, no need. That's the thing. The correct identification of the pest and the stages of the crop and which stage the crop is there, whether this at this stage, if the pest incidents happen, whether it will cause the economic damage. The correct identity. In which stage of the pest we attack. For example, if you are going there and groundnut field, for brinjal field, brinjal shoot and fruit fly adults are there, right? You need to take immediate action to control the adults. Because adults are not infested. Larvas are taking the damage. Larvas are creating the damage. Therefore, if you are identifying the right, short and fruit borer larvas, then you have to think, okay, I have to take a management option. If the one or two is there, do you need to take action? If several incidents are there, then you have to take action. So, correct identification of the pest, understanding of the pest and the crop dynamics. So, if the harvesting stage, no need. Or if the seedling stage, do you need, or you have to decide how much of incidents are there, whether incidents will be more in the future or not, and what are the preventive stages you can use. For example, if you are going to cultivate a paddy, you are a paddy farmer, you want to cultivate paddy. So yellow stem borer, you are expecting that yellow stem borer attack will be there. So therefore, you are choosing the seedling transplant. The advantages preventing of the pest through the transplanting is high because you are going to manage the pest in the nursery in close care. You will apply whatever the pesticide needed, and also you will monitor it whatever the egg masses are there in the seedling. Then you can clip off and remove and burn the egg masses, and you are transplanting the clean seedling. The preventive pest is not going from the nursery to seed. And also you have to go for a monitoring. Once in alternative days you are going there, how many number of egg masses are there, then you can decide it, okay, how much of yellow stem borer will be there, larva will be there in future. It's a monitoring. From the monitoring, you are taking the decision, okay, how many stem borer larva will be there in the future. If they are in the main tillering stage. If it is tillering stage, this much will be there, then how much of yield losses I can get with the need management now or later. If one or two is there, no need now. If one or two lava incidences, lava, borer lava, boring bohos are there, do you not take immediate action? No. Because this one or two will not cause the economic damage. So decision making. So one you ask, okay, do you need a management or not? If you decided that management is needed, then you can implement which management activity may be suitable. Whether cultural is okay, or you are going to use any biological control agent in this case, or this is beyond the level, or I have to use only the chemicalist option. And while taking the management option, you have to evaluate it. Okay, if I am using these tactics, how much of cost for this implementation of the tactics? If you are thinking that for by 5 acre land you are cultivating the rice, the implementation cost is nearly about 50,000, and you are going to get the benefit of 2 lakhs. If you are not taking management, it will cost 70,000. Right? If you are not taking, it will cost 70,000 only. So, do you need to implement the management practice? Only 20,000 areas. Sometimes you need not to apply because you will save the time. Or if the cost and the damages are equal, then you can implement. If the host is damages is less than the cost of application, no need to apply for that. The host is higher than the profit, then you need to go for it, right? So these are the evaluation process before implementation, before the implementation of suitable management tactics. So these are the key steps while implementing the integrated pest management. I am stopping here with, and we will continue in the next class. Right? Do you want to ask any questions? Please ask.